Hi, welcome to the coaching game. It must be coaches creating change because look who's sitting here, Terry Yoffe.
It's me, Terry Yoffe, and Coaches Creating Change.
Yeah, we took a break last month, and because we had so many exciting guests coming on. Yeah, but Terry was a part of that also, so we didn't exclude her, but we did take a break. So now we're back.
We're back.
Today we're talking about, we're sort of wrapping up, but as Terry pointed out, this is never wrapped up. It's never a finishing thing.
So this is the 10th ICF Core Competency called Planning and Goal Setting, and it's under the umbrella of Facilitating Learning and Results.
Yes.
And this is what it says: developing and maintaining an effective coaching plan with the client.
Right. And this is part of your, hopefully, after a marvelous coaching session, this is part of your wrap-up. It's like, this is how you're going to end the session and hopefully start, as well as start the next one. Here's where we're going to be next time, and here's what we're going to do now. So we kept thinking goals. It's so simple. But then we go, really, what is a goal?
Right, exactly.
And there's some great quotes that I'm sure Terry has come up with because she loves quotes. And but it really, for me, I guess I'll define it for me, and then you can define it for you. For me, a goal is something to which you want to attain. You're going to. It's a measurement of where you'd like to be. It's not necessarily where you're going to end up, but it's something to shoot for, right?
Okay.
Right? What do you think it is?
I think the word goal has many thoughts behind it.
Yes.
And what people think. Clients come to coaching to achieve something. They may say, these are the goals that I want to achieve, or benchmarks. I think when we look at the coaching, and after each session where we invite a client to come up with a plan, a goal, it's really based on that specific session and what they've learned and how that learning will help them in the week or 2 weeks till you meet again with the client. And for me, I think part of it also is it's an action that somebody is going to take to reach their next benchmark or goal. Because just to say, yeah, I have a goal, ho-hum, but there's no action that gets you to the goal.
Right.
And just going to read exactly what we're talking about. Jeff Rich, who is an English rocker, drummer.
Oh, really?
He wrote, "A goal without a plan is just a wish."
There you go. There you go.
So
yeah, exactly what you were talking about. And I think Yaron Golan, who developed the coaching game, I think he said this, and if not, I'll give him credit because he said a lot of other cool things. But I remember when we were doing our training for this, he goes, dreams are great and wishes are great, but they need an Excel sheet. And that's kind of what we're talking about with the goal. It's like, okay, this is where you want to be. How are you going to get there? What are you going to do?
Right.
What do you need to do to get there? But when you were talking, it brought up an interesting point for me because I think almost everybody starts their session out by like, what do you want to work on? What would make the session successful? But I find, and I don't know if you find, that I find that the client will say, this is my goal. And it's like, okay. But a lot of times it's a little deeper than the goal is really a symptom that they want to fix. Do you know what I mean?
So like you, I start out with, so what would you like to work on today that will give you insight or move you forward? And then they'll go into, I would like to look at. Nobody ever says my goal for the day is, because that can be very tricky. I mean, it could be a slippery slope.
If you're stuck there, it's like, oh, I said I wanted to do that. Now I got to do it, even though over here is a far more important path.
So it kind of closes the ability to have an open lens from my perspective. So nobody ever says, gee, my goal for today is. I rarely, I don't think I've heard that.
It's interesting because I asked the question, and now I'm questioning myself. I should probably rephrase that. It's like, what is your goal? Well, yeah, it's like, what's your goal for the session? And then I know where I want to go and where you want to go and how we'll get there. I am flexible. It's like, I hear two directions in which you could be coached. Which one do you want to work on first? But I'm thinking, that might not be a great question to ask.
A goal.
Talk more about it while you don't. Yeah, I like that.
Because I've seen, and from several of the trainings I've done, especially Marion's course. Marion Franklin, laser coaching, amazing course, is it pigeonholes them in a way. Goal. If they, in their mind, like exactly what you said, they say, I want to go left. And it kind of closes the field for them to even conceive of, maybe I want to go right. So I think it's allowing the client to go wherever they want to go without this burden of, oh my God, what's the goal? And am I sticking, in their mind, am I sticking to the goal? And maybe it's not. Again, I'm making it up. But I just feel it doesn't open the playing field for them.
We can use the one that you say I always use. My goal is always to lose 20 pounds. Always. That's what, and then that keeps being my goal. But you're right. So if I start out with a session going, okay, my goal is to lose 20 pounds, then if that's kind of puts us in, okay, so we got to deal with nutrition, we got to deal with health. Whereas the real goal might be, a lack of motivation because all the stuff that you're going to tell me to do to reach my goal, I've already done. I know, I'm American. I know how to diet, okay? If I don't, I haven't been listening. So you're right, that shuts the door on possibilities.
It's a thought. I don't know that it's right or wrong.
I'm really pondering it. I hope I figure it out by the end of this broadcast. But no, you really made me think that, maybe, so how do you start your session?
Other than saying hello, how are you?
Yeah, you
the
do
usual, I'll say, so what would you like to work on today that will bring you insight, an aha moment, something to move you forward. So it just opens up for them to, this is what I'd like to work on. And then they go into that. And then by the, when I get to near the end of the session, what I'll say is, so we started with, and I'll repeat back, and then I'll say, where are you now? So that elicits, given what the session was, well, at this point, I think I'd like to work on, so they've come up with their own plan in a lot of cases as to what they'd like to do.
What if, we're just going to have a coaching session right here. What if that you ask me, what do you want to work on? That will bring you insight. And I go, I don't know, I got this problem, blah, blah, blah. Is that how and then you move into it? I mean, I would think it would be like, ooh, I got to figure out what I want to work on and where we're going to go.
Well,
that might make me.
But they know.
That's true. They're paying you. They should.
Well, it's established in the establishing the agreement of how the coaching is going to go. And I always let them know it's your coaching. Therefore, I will start with, other than the niceties, what would you like to work on? And then it's up to you. And, through my CTI coaching, when it's the small agenda and the larger agenda. The smaller agenda is, what do they want to work on? And they may say, well, I'm having issues at my office. Then that's the small agenda. The big agenda is what is keeping them stuck and what's keeping them from delivering the results they want, if
it's
you will.
Interesting, because I call it the symptom, which is what you tell me that is the problem. and then the cause, the source, you know.
Okay.
So it's like so I always think, okay, I don't know, you might need a Band-Aid for the symptom, but we got to go find out why you're bleeding,
Exactly,
you know.
but that's
terminology.
The point.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
They may not know the goal.
Well,
When
yeah.
they get on the call.
So I'm thinking, boy, you're really being hard on your people because now they've got to come up with something. I'm really being hard on my people because I'm going, okay, give me goal. It's like, I don't know, you know. I know 20 pounds, but they don't know, you know. It's like it could be something else. Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's, you know, there you go. There's.
And we thought we had this together.
No,
it's interesting,
you know, it's our job, I think, our responsibility to help facilitate what I learned in CTI, forward the action and deepen the learning. And that's what happens off the call. And that's part of developing a effective plan after each session.
Okay. And so how do you, let's say you have an ongoing client and each one, so at what point do you check on, well, how did you do on the goal that we set in the last session?
So when we get on the call, it's really up to the client, this is where it gets tricky again, for them to come back to you and say, I'd like to follow up. I have one client that he gets he works out what he wants to do, and then he'll come on the call and say, I'd like to follow up and continue with what we talked about.
Wow,
so
he's a cool client. Yeah.
Yes, he finds that thread, and then wherever that leads. Some clients go into a different direction, and they don't connect with where they were. And I may say in the conversation, so in our last session we discussed blah, 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 blah. Where are you with that? Or what have you thought about?
Right.
Without asking in a direct way, this is where we were. Unless they asked.
Well, or unless they've made you, when you're creating the goal, and we're going to talk about that on our next session, the accountability part, and unless they've asked you to be their accountability partner, then it's kind of your obligation. But it could be, you know, all right, so you'll text me when it's done or whatever. But I think a part of the session, unless they go, oh my God, my dog died, so I really want to talk about how I feel about that. I think a part of the session is, well, how'd you do? And if you did great and you got everything done, then where would you like to go? Or if you didn't, okay, let's talk about what held you back.
Right.
So you're right, it's a dance. It's a dance, right. And there are many, it's a freestyle dance.
That's
right,
right,
yeah,
but it's always keeping in mind that the client holds the agenda. And I have very mixed feelings about, well, we talked about this last time, where are you with it now? Because in a way you are enabling the client, and that might not be what they want to talk about.
Enabling or circumventing? Or
no, it's, I may be a lot tougher than
We've already established, I'm the nice one. It's good cop, bad cop. We already established that.
It's kind of a fine line, let's put it that way. If I personally feel that reviewing what happened is really important, then that becomes my agenda.
Okay.
So where do you offer up and where don't you?
Interesting.
And maybe if they start the conversation and it picks up from, then that's a way to insert it into the conversation and the dialogue.
Right.
So what I hear is, and that's what I do, I you know, when they say something, I will go back and sum up what was said and say, so blah, blah, blah. And, you know, from our last conversation, we talked about this. How does this fit into that? Or did that have an impact on this?
Ah, well, connecting the dots.
Right,
so that's
exactly.
Always, yeah.
Exactly. So it becomes a very fine, a very delicate dance.
Yeah, and a kind of like
you-
freestyle. It's like it's really, it depends on your client. You've got a client who wants to follow up on what he did last week or you know, the last 2 weeks. Or I have, not all my clients, but let's say I have a client who has a tendency to self-destruct or
Skirt the issue?
Yes, exactly. That's what I was looking for. Not necessarily self-destruct. That's bad, but yeah. And so I've got to sort of nail her down. It's like, okay, so what do we, you know, because I want her to get her value out of the session too. So it's an interesting conversation. We could talk about this forever off the air, but yeah, interesting.
So you know what we're hearing is there are many roads that lead to Rome, and or many ways to help a client figure out their goal setting.
And there are many goals. There are many ways to do a goal. So yeah, and I think it has to be just like all coaching sessions. I think it has to be tailored to the individual. What's going to work best? Now, I know some people who ask, how would you like to be coached? Would you like to be, and I think that's too much of a burden. No, I'm going to decide how you should be coached, and if you don't like it, we'll terminate the contract.
Right,
but,
yes, I agree with you. That's part of what I do in the intake. And I do a welcome letter, and it's like a contract, and I tell them, this is how I coach.
You tell them you're mean?
Yes, I tell them I'm mean. I tell them I'm I'll cheer them, an ally. However, if they want me to go, oh, sweetie, ain't my style.
Send them to me.
Yeah, so, to understand, and are you okay with my challenging the heck out of you?
Good.
Because that's what I will do. If that's okay with you, we're good. If you're looking for something different, then you should look for something different.
All right, so let's carry on. I love that. Yes. So how do you know when it's time to set a goal?
At the end of the session, it's or even sometimes during the session, they will come up with what we say an aha moment.
Yes.
Or they may say, oh, okay, I'm going to make a point of including that in what I do. And again, I will reiterate at the end of the session, as we start to wrap up, so we started here, where are you now? And then they will include, in a lot of cases, what they want to do.
Wow, okay.
So it's really the benefit of the client to come up with their own goal setting and planning.
Terry be working her clients hard, man. Well, okay, midpoint, not even midpoint. It's like sometimes you find, and I'm sure you find this also, that you think this is where we're going, and then midpoint is like, maybe we need to redefine your goal because what you're telling me is not really so. But I will ask them.
That's why I don't ask it in the beginning.
Yeah, so okay, so I'm stuck
I don't
with
have to ask that question.
All right, good point. So because I ask in the beginning, I'm not sure I'm going to anymore, but I might. Then it would be like, okay, you'd want to do a midpoint check-in anyway, and it's like, okay, you said your goal for the session was, are we on track? How on track are we? What else do we need to discuss, et cetera? That's where I'm harder on my client than you are on
but
yours.
I don't ask for the goal,
exactly.
So we don't. Well, what I will do is I coach by phone, so I will sit and kind of make little notes, and if I intuitively see a thread or I see something, then I will pose it in a question to the client.
Yeah.
So we've heard blah, 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 and now I'm hearing something else. So, for instance, I had a client that was set on leaving his company. Wanted to leave. We were doing the coaching because he wanted to leave. And during a session, he'd say, well, you know, it sounded like that was not what he was thinking. He said, well, you know, if I go for managing director, then I need to do this. And if I do, and so what was coming across was a conflicting answers to where he wanted to go. So I said to him, so when we started coaching, you were very clear you wanted to leave. And we were looking at how we were going to do that and what steps you needed to take. But what I'm hearing is, well, if I become managing partner and if this and if that. So what am I hearing? You now feel you want to stay because it's the opposite of what we've been talking about. If you're invested in, well, this person said this, and if I stay, this. So where are you? And it was, oh, you're right. You know, so it's really listening.
Oh, yeah.
To what's going on that can also determine what their goal actually is.
Yeah. Listen, yeah, absolutely. And pointing out what you're hearing, absolutely. And hear threads, if you hear threads, that too. So you determine, now the way I do this is that I ask for the goal in the beginning, and then I do a midpoint check, and then when I think, okay, we've really exhausted the subject now, I'm going to ask my client, are we ready to make a plan of action? Are we ready to set a goal? You know, I guess yes. Are we going to a plan of action? Which to me, because it's IPEC and they're really into SMART goals, it's like, are we ready to really define this goal now? Are we ready to set the plan of action? So that's where my goal comes in. My goal comes in at the beginning and at the end. Yours is a culmination and ties it up at the end.
I never use the word goal.
Never?
No.
Wow, okay.
It's what would you like to look at that you think would help you, deepening the learning and forwarding the action.
And what about the end when you're making the plan of action?
Well, they come up with it most of the time, and I'll say, great. So we can look at this next time. Or if they don't come up with anything, I'll say, might I invite you to look at some of what we've talked about today and put that into some kind of an action plan. And what would that be?
Wow, okay. So I think what we're proving here, which we already knew, but I think what we're proving is there are many ways to coach.
That's right.
And you know, for Terry's clients, it's probably effective, and for my clients, I'd like to think it's effective. But it's nice that the alternatives are out there. So I have to think about closing it off at the beginning by asking them what their goal is. So I have to think about that, because that really, if I did that, then I would have to make sure I keep expanding and opening doors and going, well, do you want to look at this or do you want to look at that? So I got to think about that.
But it's still also knowing where their goals are. But there's other ways to, and
other terminology.
Og Mandino, he's an American author who wrote The Greatest Salesman in the World, which is an absolutely fabulous little book.
Yeah.
And he says the victory of success is half won when one gains the habit of setting and achieving goals. So we're not dismissing goals.
Right.
It's just another
how
way
you approach
of approaching it.
How you approach it and how you I guess how you approach it is really what we're talking about. And then what role does it play in the coaching? You know, to me it's the introduction and the culmination. To you it's the culmination, but you don't use the word goal. But you know, so and it's yours is almost, the goal is almost to come up with a goal, and
Well,
for your
we've
session.
always, from the beginning, looked at and explored what they want to get out of the coaching. So it's
Definitely.
always keeping that in mind,
Right.
and that's the end result. Now, how are you going to get there? What do you need to do? What action? Because it's all about the action. It's
Right.
not about just saying, I want to do this or I want to do that. But it's really concrete. And it's always along the way figuring out how they get there.
Yes.
And are they on track? And as long as they're on track, then they're going to be achieving that goal.
Right. And one thing about a goal, which I think is really very important, is if you can, the goal should be on an action step rather than, oh, I'm gonna have a positive attitude. That's very hard to measure, and you want to have
Right.
specific. It's like,
Right.
okay, gonna have a positive attitude. How are you gonna measure that?
Right.
How are you gonna know that you have a positive? So I think rather than people, it's great if you've given them that aha moment. It's like, oh, I'm really negative, so I'm gonna have a positive. Okay, so what's the first step you could take? Do you agree with that?
Yeah,
specific.
it's what can they do? But they have to do something. There's a doing here.
Yes, exactly. Because
you
we've been
know,
talking, and
right,
now we want to
right,
do.
it's a
We want
doing.
you to do. Yeah.
It's a doing.
Yeah.
And, it's what's the difference between a dream and a goal? Which we've talked
yeah,
about.
yeah.
A dream is just, a fantasy.
Right.
And it doesn't have any wind behind it.
Exactly.
And just as Eisenhower, one of my last quotes, President Eisenhower, in preparing for battle, I have always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable.
Okay, I understand that. Yeah. And I think planning. I like the way this conversation went, because I think planning is being open and being flexible and meeting the needs of the client, however you do that, and we do it in different ways.
Right. Which
and
we've seen.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
So who's to say, which way is right? But yeah, definitely.
And he was a general, so you have to plan for many things.
Definitely, and if you also, I'm sure it's like, okay, we're going over that mountain, and then you get to the top of the mountain, and the guys are waiting for you below. No, we're gonna go back
Right.
now. So yeah, so that's kind of what we're doing too. So wow, I would say
planning and goal setting, and
I would say that there's flexibility. The important things are to keep, like you said, keep the action moving. You want to go forward, and you want to be specific so people can see.
Right.
Oh, did I meet my goal
Right.
or my plan,
Right.
whatever.
And on that,
goal plan.
we have to say goodnight.
We do, and thank you. I think I learned. I hope you all did too. Thanks, Terry.
You're welcome.